Hey everybody, Buzzkey420 here, and I'm doing my first video game review ever on a little lesser known World War II game by the name of Red Orchestra, Ostfront 4145. Now, this game is made by TripWire Interactive, the same developers that made the recently released game Killing Floor on Steam. Red Orchestra, like the Killing Floor, started out as a mod for Unreal Tournament 2004. Red Orchestra focuses on the Eastern Front during World War II between, you guessed it, 1941 and 1945. The game focuses solely on the struggle between the Soviet and German forces. This game concentrates mostly on the multiplayer aspect of the game with a sort of single-player practice mode available, but multiplayer is where this game really shines. Red Orchestra is known for its emphasis on realism compared to other World War II games out there. When you first step foot in the game, you will notice there are no crosshairs right away. You must instead either aim using the iron sights, or by firing from the hip while making your best guess based on where the barrel of the gun is pointed to where you want your bullet to go. And unlike other World War II games, or any other FPS game for that matter, there is no bunny hopping. There is jumping, but when you jump, there is a period of time where you're slowed down for a second or two. So that also adds to the realism, so you don't have a bunch of players, hopping all over the place trying not to get hit. Adding to the realism, you will also have to kind of mentally keep track of how much ammunition you have, because there really isn't a HUD showing you how much ammo you have, like in other games. So you'll have to kind of keep track of how much ammo you use. There also isn't a life bar. There is a diagram of the player, and certain parts of the body, when they get injured, they turn red. So, for instance, if you get shot in the leg, you'll start moving slow for a certain period of time, but given in a little bit, like 5 seconds or so, you'll automatically return to normal speed and normal function. It's just another thing that kind of adds to the realism. If you get shot in the hands, you'll drop your weapon. You can pick it back up and try to fight some more, but chances are if you get shot in the hands, you're going to get shot trying to pick your weapon back up. Also, if you're real trigger happy with the MG, you are going to find yourself needing to change your barrels constantly. That's another thing I like, is you can overheat your MG barrel, and when it gets too hot, it won't fire, it won't function anymore. So you'll have to change the barrel out. Another thing I want to touch on are the maps in this game. This game has actually a good amount of diverse maps. They can range anywhere from, which are my favorite, close quarters kind of city infantry maps, to the more open big area maps where you're more inclined to fight with tanks or whatnot. Teamwork is pretty big on this game, although you can find servers where you can just hop into and just start fighting, but in order to really get the most out of this game, it's good to find a good team of people to kind of coordinate your attacks with, and set up ambushes or whatever. And if you are going to go out there guns blazing, Rambo style kind of tactics, you may be successful, and you can still play the game that way. So, I mean, it's not just a game where you have to dig in and camp somewhere, because some people could get bored with that pretty quickly. I myself get bored doing that sometimes, and I get a little trigger happy, and sometimes I just like to rush in guns a-blazing. And you can do that, but you gotta be careful, because, the essence of this game is realism. So, if you get shot anywhere in the torso, head, whatever, with a rifle, it's a one-shot, one-kill. You can't expect to get hit 5 times with a rifle and keep on going. But if that's how you want to do it, just prepare to die quite a bit, which isn't really a problem. I mean, they do have spawn times in this game, so it's not like you die once and you have to sit the rest of the round out. It varies from 4 to, sometimes I've seen even 45-second wait on respawn time. So if you're going to do that, I'd say still be careful. Now I just want to talk a second about the sound in this game. The sound is very immersive. You won't hear any kind of generic guns going off that you hear in other FPSs. You'll hear explosions going off everywhere. I mean, you'll feel like you're in an actual battle because there's going to be sound going off all over the place, and sometimes you'll have dead silence and you'll just hear a few people fighting it out off in the distance, and sound carries really well in this game, which I like. In other games, sometimes if you're a certain distance away, you don't hear a shot, but this game, I like the way they programmed it, so you can hear two people fighting it out from way off across the map, and you can decide if you want to make your way there to join the fight. Alright, now on to the tank combat. Now, with the tank combat, you either like it or, you don't. I'm not really that crazy about it. I have had fun with it, but I'm more into the kind of close quarters combat. That's what I like. But the tank combat can be fun too. The tank models are very well done. They have fully realized interiors that were modeled after the real life thing. So it's kind of fun when you're riding around in the tank, and you can open up the hatch and you can see where you're going. And if you see an enemy tank, you can duck in and close the hatch and man the gun and just lay into them. The tank combat is where the bullet physics really shine in this game. Even though I'm not crazy about the tank combat, one thing I love is the attention to detail paid to the physics and the trajectory of the tank shells. If there's a tank that's way far off in the distance and he's kind of up on a hill above you, you're gonna have to, aim way high above him to sort of compensate for the distance and the elevation. And I just think something like that adds to the realism and, to me, the fun in the game. You have two different types of shells you can use: armor piercing to take out other tanks or vehicles, and you have high explosive shells, which are a blast to just blow into a group of enemies running up over a hill or coming around the corner of a barn who didn't see you there. Now, being a review, I'm going to go into the pros and cons. I'm going to start off with the cons. One con being slow gameplay. You're going to spend quite a bit of time, especially on the larger maps, just running to the fight. And you may be upset to spend all that time running to the fight just to get picked off by a sniper when you finally get there. And so, that can be kind of aggravating. Another con, I would have to say, is the sluggish movement. The game is based on realism, and in order to stop people from doing things like bunny hopping or glitch proning, which is where they prone real fast and get up, to kind of dodge bullets, they had to slow the movement down, which I understand. But sometimes you want to be able to get right up and run when somebody throws a grenade at you, and you're not able to do that. And the last con I can think of is the number of players. This is an older game. It was released a few years ago. There is still a good, dedicated player base to it, but not nearly as big as when the game first came out. So there are a good number of servers that are always populated with people playing, but sometimes you'll find yourself hopping into servers you think are full that really are just full of bots, and that's really the only other con I can find. But if you can find a server that's full of good players having a good time, this game is truly a blast to play. Okay, now on to the pros. Realism. This game does a very good job of paying attention to the smallest of details, from the weapons to the maps to the tanks to the fighting. It tries to make everything as real as it possibly can, yet still enjoyable. And two, the level of detail paid to the maps of this game. This does also touch on realism, but this isn't a next-gen game. The graphics are kind of dated, but with the amount of detail they paid to every aspect of the maps, you don't really have that much trouble believing that you're there in this fight. All in all, I'm going to give this game a solid 85 out of 100. This game is a blast to play, and I would recommend you buy it. It's cheap on Steam now. Get it.